Thanks, Alex, for joining us here today. And thank you all for joining us for this first COP drop, which is a daily live stream during COP28 that's hosted by the Faith for Biodiversity Coalition and the United Religions Initiative. And each day during COP, we will be discussing the latest developments of what's happening in Dubai with a particular focus on nature and biodiversity. And we'll also be learning about some of the ways, really amazing ways actually, that faith groups and spiritual communities all around the world are working to protect and restore the natural world and the environment. For those who don't know, my name is Gopal Patel. I serve as one of the co-conveners for the Faith for Biodiversity Coalition, and I'm honored to be joined by my co-host, Lauren Van Ham, who is the Climate Action Coordinator at the United Religions Initiative, the largest grassroots multi-faith organization in the world. Lauren, good morning. How are you doing over there?
Great to see you, Gopal. Alex, thanks for joining us from Dubai. I'm doing well. Good to be with you.
Great. Thanks, Lauren. And yeah, Alex, thanks for joining us. For those who don't know, Alex is also one of the other co-conveners for our Faith for Biodiversity Coalition. She's also on the advisory board for the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. And she's also the United Nations representative for the Buddhist organization Soka Gakkai International, and she's based in Geneva. So Alex, you wear a lot of hats. You're in Dubai right now. It's 8 o'clock. It sounds like you had a great Indian meal, which I'm very jealous about. We're still waking up here over in New York. Lauren is even waking up earlier over in California. But waking up, we were reading the news, and it seems like the Loss and Damage Fund is now getting some commitments. Last time I saw, there's about $400 million pledged. 100, I think, from America, 100 from Germany. No, 100 from UAE, 100 from Germany, yes. UK, US, Japan are also contributing. Just break that down for us. What is the Loss and Damage Fund, and why is this such a huge announcement on the first day of COP?
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty huge announcement. I think it was a win that really the UAE wanted to have, and they worked hard for it. There were some meetings between June preparation for COP and now. And during those meetings, actually, there were 5 of them. 4 were not sufficient. So there were 5 of them. And at the end of that 5th one, a text came out. And the surprise was that yesterday evening, the presidency put forward a text that is very similar to that previous text of the 5th meeting. And so it means that it's agreed and it's moving forward. And so it's going to be hosted interim by the World Bank. The board is going to be composed. So it means that it's a great step, and it is definitely a win, because it's a win that, developing countries have been, and civil society have been fighting for. And that could also drive really money and finance to, ecosystem and nature based type of reparations in a way. But maybe caveat, it's only pledges, and we've had lots of pledges in the past. And so really remains to be seen if there will be maybe the direct funding part that many countries, civil society has been calling for. And then probably still in terms of indigenous people, civil society, they are observers on the board, and the board will still have to develop a lot of their policies. So there's still room for improvement. It's a compromise, so not everybody is happy, but it's a big win to have it established on the first day of COP.
Yeah, and going into this COP, there's been a lot of conversations and a lot of people saying that they're not optimistic or enthusiastic about it, given how the process has gone over the last number of years. But to me, I'm usually there every year. This year I decided to not attend, but it seems like to me an announcement on this scale on the first day is hopefully it can set the tone for the rest of the 2 weeks. Is that right?
That is so true. Yes. And the next really important thing will be another process that's called the global stocktake. And for that too, the fact that that loss and damage fund has been agreed, if it can set the tone, it might really also influence all other parts of the negotiations. So yes, I think it's and I think maybe also because of the controversies of the UAE presidency, because of the links to fossil fuel, I think for them it was very important And they managed really to get that win. So at least really congrats to them on that.
Yeah. And tell us a bit more about the global stocktake, because like this is what this COP is really focused on. Can just explain a little bit more about that? Because I think I have a sense of it, but you're there on the ground, you're following this a bit more closely.
Right. So this will be like the main, another of the, a major outcome of this COP, if it comes as a strong decision. So basically in Paris in 2015, they agreed that we need to raise up ambition. We need to ratchet up the nationally determined contributions, the NDCs, the national actions. And in order to do that, we need to understand where we are and to provide guidance on how to move forward with concrete goals, concrete roadmaps. And so this is all about this global stocktake. So for 2 years, there were technical dialogues, and these have concluded. Now we are at the political moment where it's a decision that's going to be adopted. And there are fights around what should be in that decision. And I think that from both like nature, biodiversity, even faith-based perspective, I think it's an opportunity to bring back the spirit of the Paris Agreement. The spirit of keeping 1.5 alive. We had a major achievement in the biodiversity world with the adoption of the Global Biodiversity Framework last year. And that is something that's new or different. That is now the GST will be adopted in that context. And for too long, nature, climate have been separated. So this global stocktake is also an opportunity to bring the necessary synergies between nature and climate together.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you're right. In 2015, I was there in Paris. I'm not sure if you were, I'm sure you were as well. Oh, you weren't there. Okay.
No.
But, there was so much enthusiasm and energy for a couple of years after that as well. But when the pandemic hit, and it feels like maybe if this COP is a success, feels like maybe we can start getting back on track and leaning back into that positive energy that was there in Paris. What's your sense on that?
Right. I think that's it. I think like it needs to be that, because if not, it's really, it's going to be really difficult. There will be really battles, but I think the ultimate battle for this global stocktake is whether we're not only keeping alive the spirit of Paris, but really reviving it with like the motivation to do better collectively for people and of course for the planet.
Yeah. And what are you most looking forward to there? I mean, you've only been there 24, 48 hours, and so you've got a long 2 weeks ahead of you. How are you going to keep yourself nourished and sustained during that time, and what are you looking forward to most yourself?
I mean, I think it's really fantastic to see all the friends gathered from civil society, from faith, from governments, even from all like countries, walks of life, and to feel that we are together for a purpose. I think I'm really looking forward to it. And I think the thing I'm most looking forward to is that there can be like a global stocktake decision that is not just like a technical, point that was agreed, but something that like, I don't know, inspires people as well. Something that inspires.
That's great. Well, Alex, thank you for joining us. We don't want to keep you too long because I know you still got to get home. You got another half an hour walk back. So thanks for being with us. Thanks for all you do for the faith communities around not just nature, biodiversity, climate, and all the other things you're doing. And I know you're going to be joining us throughout the next 2 weeks as we do these daily COP drops. So thanks again, but please get home safely and look forward to connecting soon.
Thank you, guys. It was great to see you. I'm looking forward to more.
Alex.
Bye.
Bye. Wow, Lauren, what do you think of that? I mean, we're just waking up, we're hearing news about the loss and damage fund, which has been a point of contention for many years. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, that was just great. It's so useful to hear from Alex and have someone there on the ground. I am thinking about the 2015 time period that, you kind of like conjured up and helped us go back to that moment in time today. And nearly every world religion posted a climate statement around that time, or very soon after that time. And all of those statements were really thinking with this social justice component in mind, right? It wasn't only about kind of the science of what was happening on the planet. It was also about our need to end corporate greed and a misuse of power, or a lack of caring distribution, if you will. So the loss and damage pledges are really important, and it's important that we hold that with the care and the critique that Alex just offered to us, I think. And it's also true that religious teachings and spiritual practices have always emphasized, human to human justice, but also justice or relationship with all our kin. And I think that that's something that the Faiths for Biodiversity Coalition continues to invite us to center. I was really happy to hear Alex kind of planting that at the end of her comments today, that we move from the technical aspects into something that is also really synergistic between this idea of climate and nature. And the last thing that I'll say in this riff right now is I'm thinking about some of the things that the Pope offered in the Laudato Si, where he was really speaking about the integration of environment and social. And this loss and damage aspect is really speaking to that, how our solution, our way forward absolutely needs to be about the ecosystem and restoring the ecosystem, but also understanding that we are also ecosystem, and that we need to be restoring our relationships with each other as well.
Yeah, I mean, the word that's popping to my mind is relationship. Like this, I mean, the solutions to the climate crisis, the biodiversity crisis, and other environmental crises are technical in one way, in one sense, but they're also about relationships, repairing relationships we have with each other, with the land, and responsibility, recognizing that we have responsibility in the world about how we've acted and how our communities and societies have acted for hundreds of years. And so, this loss and damage fund is really a moment of, just to clarify, or just to stress the pledges, but they're really strong pledges from, the leading economies of the world. But they speak to the importance of responsibility and relationship, that the high polluting countries have a responsibility to the global south, and those countries and, small island states are going to suffer the most. So they have that responsibility, and they have a relationship. It's not like we can just keep burning fossil fuels, live off the benefits of that, and feel like we don't have the responsibility to act on those. And so, yeah, it's great. And, you're talking about the role of faith. This year at COP, there's a sizable number of faith-based organizations there. There's the first ever faith pavilion within a UNFCCC COP. What are your thoughts about that? I know you're in touch with some of your colleagues from URI on the ground there.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly this is a big moment for a climate COP, that faiths are there in their own very marked way in the Blue Zone. And I look forward to, over the next couple of weeks, having some more conversations about all of that. And to be able to maybe really embody or practice these climate statements in a visible way at COP, that just feels totally right on. And I'm grateful for the folks who are there. Yeah.
What really kind of, because you've been a core part of the Faiths for Biodiversity Coalition. You were with us in Montreal a year ago now. It feels like a lifetime ago, but at the same time, it feels so recent. What really animates you when it comes to faith values and teachings, when it comes to the environment, climate, biodiversity, and ecosystem restoration?
Yeah. It's been really inspiring for me in my role at the United Religions Initiative to see our grassroots groups are called cooperation circles. They're coming together across beliefs, across culture to, quite literally put their hands in the soil often to tend things. And they're doing this because they do want to heal relationships with one another. They are also doing it because they know that our lives depend on it, and that our whether it's a religious teaching from a sacred scripture or it's a moral teaching because of the way that we have kind of been spiritually formed in our communities, we know that being in relationship with the living system is absolutely good for us and essential for life to continue. So I'm looking forward to showcasing some of these stories or highlighting some of them this week as a reminder to us all that this has always been true, that humans have been taught in these ways. We've been instructed and formed in how to care for the living system, and it's alive and well, even though the media headlines are often taking us into some of the other realities that feel darker and difficult.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, we're coming up soon. These daily live streams are going to be about 20 minutes every day at 11 o'clock Eastern, and then they will be available on the Face of Biodiversity YouTube page for people to watch them who can't join live. But Lauren, as we wrap up this first session, first day of COP28, any additional thoughts or questions or reflections you have?
Well, I think grounding in what is important for us, or why we began this work at all, you and I, Gopal, I would like to send prayers of peace and intentions of goodness and well-being for all of those individuals who are doing the really difficult work on the negotiations floor, and for the individuals who have traveled to Dubai to represent faiths in the Faiths Pavilion, just that they know that we are tethered in the big web, and sending them our very best to support them for the 2 weeks ahead.
Wonderful, beautiful thoughts and prayers, and I'm sure they're receiving them loud and clear as they're ending their first day over there in Dubai. Thank you everyone for joining us for this first COP28 live stream, the Drop COP, hosted by the Face of Biodiversity Coalition and the United Religions Initiative. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time, and we'll be joined by Gavin Edwards from WWF International to dive a bit deeper into what they're looking at from a nature and biodiversity perspective at the negotiation. So until we see you then, enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, everyone. See you tomorrow.